In 1903, at the narrowest point between the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, a nation stepped onto the world stage, forever altering the course of history. This nation, Panama, became the site of one of the most impressive constructions of the modern world, creating a vital link between the globe's two largest oceans, the Panama Canal. What many don't realize is that despite its independence, the Panama Canal remained under complete U.S. control until recently, effectively making Panama a quasi-colony of the United States. Today, we will explore how greedy economic moguls seized control of the continent's most crucial waterway, how Panama was driven into dependency, and how the U.S. ultimately dominated the entire country. Our story begins nearly 100 years earlier. Like much of Latin America, Panama had been part of the Spanish colonial empire for centuries. However, influenced by Enlightenment ideals and the French Revolution's principles of liberty, equality, and national self-determination, the populace's attitude towards their colonial rulers began to shift. The time of exploitation by the Spanish state was coming to an end, and the nations of South America were eager to forge their own destinies. Spain's refusal to relinquish control voluntarily led to the War of Independence. Legendary independence fighters like Simón Bolívar and José de San Martín spearheaded the liberation of South America. Gradually, more regions broke away from Spain and declared their independence, resulting in the creation of new states such as Colombia, Peru, and Argentina. Panama, too, followed suit, but in a peaceful manner, unlike the bloody conflicts elsewhere in Latin America. Being small, insignificant, and sparsely populated, Panama declared its independence on November 28, 1821, but chose a different path by joining Gran Colombia, a union led by Bolívar aimed at establishing a powerful counterbalance to the U.S. in South America. By the late 19th century, French scientists and engineers conducted successful feasibility studies for constructing a canal through Panama, linking the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans at their narrowest point. This canal would drastically reduce the transportation time for goods and services, attracting immediate interest from the United States, the dominant power on the continent. Having expanded from the east to the west coast of North America through wars and strategic deals, and having acquired Alaska and large portions of Mexico, the U.S. needed a canal to cheaply transport goods between its coasts. Additionally, the canal would be crucial for military purposes, allowing the fleet to move swiftly between oceans in an era of growing global competition and imperial ambitions. It quickly became evident that the U.S. was determined to build the canal. However, Colombia, which still included Panama, stood in the way. Although Colombia was interested in a canal to boost its economy, it feared increasing U.S. influence. Consequently, a French company was awarded the contract, but it failed in 1889 due to technical difficulties, exorbitant costs, and deadly diseases like malaria and yellow fever, which claimed many workers' lives. This failure presented an opportunity for the U.S. to take matters into its own hands. Colombia, however, remained obstinate, denying the U.S. construction rights. A new approach was needed. By this time, Panama had developed a national identity, and much of its population was increasingly frustrated with the Colombian government's neglect. Colombia was politically paralyzed due to violent conflicts between its liberal and conservative parties. The U.S. sought to exploit this political deadlock and Panama's national movements by generously financing Panama's independence movement. On November 3, 1903, the decisive moment arrived. The U.S. positioned its most powerful warships off the Panamanian coast, threatening Colombia with possible military intervention if it interfered. Supported by the U.S., Panama declared its independence on that day, officially separating from Colombia to become its own state. Colombia, practically incapacitated, could only watch. The U.S. was the first to recognize Panama's independence, followed by other countries in Europe and South America. Panama's independence, however, was merely nominal. It was clear from the outset who would be pulling the strings. Shortly thereafter, Panama's new government signed the Tribunal Varilla Treaty, granting the U.S. full rights to build and operate the canal and complete control over the canal zone. This area became American territory, with numerous military bases established, making the U.S. Panama's military protector. This move aligned well with the Monroe Doctrine, which aimed to prevent European colonialism in the Western Hemisphere. Controlling the Panama Canal and acting as a protector fit perfectly into this strategy, ensuring no other power could establish a foothold in this strategically critical region. President Theodore Roosevelt further promoted a big stick policy, expanding American influence in Latin America. In reality, Panama was now essentially a U.S. colony, formally independent, but dominated in all aspects by the northern superpower. American entrepreneurs quickly began constructing the canal, which was officially opened in 1914. U.S. banks also saw an opportunity, gradually transforming Panama into a financial center and a haven for tax evasion and money laundering. Guided by Wall Street, a labyrinthine system of tax-free incorporation was developed, attracting many economic moguls and further entrenching Panama's dependency on the U.S. The CIA ensured that the right president remained in power in Panama. However, this system couldn't last indefinitely. Increasing resentment against the Americans grew among the Panamanian population. While wealthy financiers and canal operators from the U.S. profited immensely, little benefit reached Panama, and the people suffered from poverty. This disparity fueled national consciousness and the desire for full sovereignty. Open revolts and protests ensued. A significant event was the flag incident of 1964, when Panamanian students attempted to raise their flag in the canal zone, leading to violent clashes and several deaths. This incident heightened international awareness of the situation and pressured the U.S. to reconsider its policies. General Omar Torrijos, Panama's de facto leader at the time, skillfully garnered further global attention, forcing the U.S. into negotiations. This led to the 1977 Torrijos-Carter treaties, named after General Torrijos and U.S. President Jimmy Carter. These treaties stipulated that control over the canal and the canal zone would gradually transfer to Panama by December 31, 1999. The U.S. was to withdraw completely from the country by then, which was eventually honored, allowing Panama to achieve full sovereignty for the first time at the turn of the millennium. Thanks to the canal's revenue, Panama is now one of the wealthiest countries in Latin America. The U.S. influence is still evident throughout the country. The U.S. dollar is the primary currency. Panama City's skyline resembles that of an American metropolis, and many American expatriates live there. That concludes the video. What are your thoughts on the history of U.S. involvement in Panama? Feel free to share in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.